Welcome to the Setbreaker podcast, and today we got a special guest. We got my friend, Dr. Kojo Sarfo.
What's going on?
Welcome,
Happy to be
man.
here.
Glad you're here, man. Glad you're here.
It's
Dude.
a privilege.
Yeah. Is it a white privilege?
Not that one. That one would be nice.
Because I don't know if we fit that. None of us fit that.
That'd be nice to have, but it's a privilege to be here. You know, you're on mine, so it's always dope to come back and return the favor.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it's cool too because we met because of TikTok.
Right.
Off
of TikTok.
Yeah, off of TikTok. Because I haven't met a lot of TikTok people in person.
That's surprising because you live in LA, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I kind of avoid that a little bit because the ones I did meet they're cool, but I just wasn't really part of that.
Understood. It's different from the comedy circle.
Mm-hmm.
It's its own circle, and even sometimes I feel like I don't fit within the TikTok, or like the typical TikToker. Like they have different interests, and the way they move is not like how I move.
Yeah.
But I mean, if somebody posts on TikTok, it puts us within this special fraternity or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to be in post on TikTok, and it allowed us to meet each other off of that platform. So
very true, and I appreciate it. And I'm not, throwing shade on any of like TikTokers or nothing. I'm just saying like you and we're in two worlds at the same time.
Right.
Because you you got a doctorate in
a DNP, doctorate in nursing practice. So clinical ADHD specialist and psychotherapist, and that's what I was really doing back in Virginia before TikTok kind of took off. So it allowed me to, come out here. And of course, like it's nice. I think on TikTok, it's nice to have the doctor in front of your name, that people know that you have a terminal degree and you're an expert in a certain thing, but also to see you let loose and have fun at the same time.
Yeah,
that's the key. We're all human beings. We've been going through this pandemic, and people want to see you. I don't think people want to see like a doctor or any type of specialist, sit there and say, so guys, this is what, they want something vibrant and fun, so I think that's the common denominator between like a me or a comedian. Like we're all here pushing different messages, but we have different ways that we go about doing it, so like it's been a pleasure to be in LA to connect with people like you. Like this is a blessing. I'm loving it. This is way more fun than like where I went to school for or being in the office.
What did you go to school for?
I went to school to get that degree, the DNP degree. So I went to school to be somebody who helps out people with mental health conditions. And back in Virginia, I was working at a forensic psych hospital. So I was working with individuals who had committed crimes from pay theft to murder, arson, some pretty serious things. So that's a difficult population to deal with, especially if you come in and somebody has, taken somebody else's life or crimes against children. I don't want to go into too much detail, but this is not the population that people really want to work with. But for me, I enjoyed working with the people that nobody wants to work with, and of course they have mental health conditions. So they're hearing voices. They might be manic. They might be severely depressed. So it was great to be able to do that. And that career also, you made really good money. So I got to get out a lot of credit card debt, be able to take care of my family and all that. So I loved it, and I could have been doing it for years. But also just understanding how mental health works, I knew that I wouldn't be doing it for 30, 40 years. I couldn't see myself, also to protect myself. I have to be able to enjoy myself, and the people like your therapist, who does the go-to person go to when they need help?
Yeah, that's the thing I think about too. And I also think about, because when I have my friends, before I used to be the guy that would listen to all their problems.
Right.
And even hearing 30 minutes of that, ruined my day for hours.
Yeah.
So hearing some serious stuff, because you have to be professional, but you're also a human with emotions and your own, a brain that you got to look out for.
Right.
So I can only imagine how many hours would you have to do that?
It's tough. As a clinician, nobody talks about that. And the thing is, you tend to be really good at fixing other people's problems, but then you have your own issues. And then I'm all right, I'm good at my job. I think I'm outstanding at it. My patients were really helped out. I really took I would get to work early. I'll read the charts. I'll go to diagnoses. I would figure out what's up. When I didn't know what was going on, I would find another coworker. I'll go across the hall, ask another psychiatrist, hey, what do you think of this? I will go all out for my patients. But then you'll clock out and you have to go home and deal with your own issues. And I was always preparing for. It's weird because it's one of those careers that as you go into, it's kind of like being an athlete, like an NFL. The average career for NFL players 3 years. So as you go into the NFL, you also kind of think about your exit. Like, okay, hopefully I can get that second contract where I get the guaranteed money, I can get some insurance, take care of my family, because one hit could be it. One concussion or one broken leg, you might not be the same player again. So as you're going into the field as a mental health specialist, like, I always thought about my exit. Like, how will I leave this profession? Like, you have to leave at some point. You don't want to stay in for too long. But I didn't think I would leave, like, with TikTok and all that happened so fast. It happened so fast. Yeah. I'm still trying to understand, like, why I'm right here right now.
Yeah, you're not sitting there like studying for your doctor, just being like, man, I'm gonna be on TikTok. It's like, nobody thought that. I didn't think that.
I never would have guessed it.
Yeah.
But I love this, and it's such nobody knows, like, this. It's an exciting time because. And also kind of scary too, because like I do have a private practice on the side, and should something happen, of course you have malpractice, but I'm highly visible online. You know exactly where to find me, right? Or if a patient doesn't like what I do, like, and you want to leave like a bad comment, like, you can leave something in front of millions of people. Yeah. So you think about that side too, but we've never been in a space where you can go directly to consumer. So like, it's just an exciting time. I'm just happy to be here, and to be in LA of all places. This is where you have to go. And I came here on purpose. Like, I want to be with content creators or TikTokers or Instagram people or YouTubers or comedians. Like, if I wanted to stay within my space, I would be hanging out with nurses and doctors and That's fine. I'm going to collab with those people naturally because of what I do. Yeah. But I want to be with, like, people in the industry, whatever the industry is called. That term is used interchangeably for a lot of things. But people in LA, like, when it comes to entertainment, I want to infiltrate that space and leave my stamp on it, so I'm excited to be out here.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, because when I was on your podcast, I think you said something about that you were you were kind of hesitant a bit coming over here, weren't you?
Yeah.
Why was that?
Because it's such a big move. Like, people work their whole lives to come to LA, and you're from here, so it's different. But LA, like, when you think of LA, it's like big time, like Showtime, Hollywood. Like, people work their whole lives to get to LA. Now, I always wanted to come out here. I just didn't know how I would get the chance to do that. So when I looked at my life, I'm like, all right, I'm recently single, coming off of a breakup. I've worked for a while. I've saved up a lot of money. I can make this move. There's no wife. There's no kids. Nothing's holding me back. Now is the time to go to California. Like, do that. And, of course, like, growing up on Section 8 housing, yeah, or at least for me, I have a money insecurity. So if funds get low, it's hard for me to, like, act. Like, if funds are low, I can go outside and I could see kids smiling and you'll just be walking around with a frown. I'm like, because I know what it's like to be broke and waiting for the first of the month for food stamps. So, like, California's expensive. So I'm worried, will I be able to make money while being here? And I didn't have a medical license to practice in California. Like, if I had thought this through, if I knew that today I was going to be as successful as it now, I would have done all this stuff ahead of time back in Virginia. But I didn't know. So I had no license to practice in California yet. And it's even still pending right now, honestly. But, like, God's been faithful. I've been able to get brand deals, collaborations and stuff. And we're able to, like, go and make progress. But it's such a huge jump coming from the East Coast, because you can fail, and then when you have a lot of people who watch you, you're not failing in front of your family, you're failing in front of 400,000 people, which is the followers I had at that time. And you think about, okay, what if I go there and people are, oh, he went to LA and he failed, now he's back in Virginia. And I thought to myself, I'm like, you know what, I'm doing this for myself, I'm not doing it for anybody else. And even if you fail, right, you still go back to a job that you liked, a high-paying 6-figure job. You're making a difference. That doesn't make you any less because you didn't make it in Hollywood. So I had to paint this whole scenario of, what if I go there and I fail? And then once I thought about the worst possible outcome and it didn't scare me, I'm like, all right, no, I'm ready to do it.
Yeah, and that's good that you actually thought that out of what is the worst thing, instead of just feeling the worst thing happen. You know what I mean? Where people just like feel, oh, it's just gonna go bad, and they don't even think about, well, what like logically could really go bad. Like they don't really think about that, right? Because I used to do that all the time. I just think the world was gonna fucking die and crash around me. But then when you sit down there and you like even just journal about it, or just like slow down your mind a bit, then
I like that.
Then it calms you down, because you're like, well, what's the positives? Like, it's a fucking long list. The negatives, like the worst thing, you're not gonna die. You're not gonna like lose everything, and the whole like, what are people gonna think? Well, people are already judging us regardless.
Exactly.
Even if we're doing well, right?
That's the thing, and it's funny because in my book I wrote that I say other people's opinions of you are none of your business. Like, don't worry about that. It should just be, you should be insular and focus on yourself, about how can I do the best for myself, and if I fail, that's fine. If I succeed, that's fine. But just not to be outcome based. Like, I'm doing this for myself, and I'm doing the best that I can. So as I do, I'm gonna make mistakes, and I'm gonna, get better. But at least you have to have that confidence and the courage to start. And it's just like riding a bike, or the first time you ask a girl on a date or something like that. Like, they can say no, or you can fall off. But then when you ask yourself, like, how bad is that? If someone tells you that they don't want to go to the middle school dance with you, it'll sting, but then you're still alive. If you fall off of a bike, right? Because there's no training wheels. Yeah, you'll get a scrape on your knee, but like, you're still there. So likewise, if I come here and I fall flat on my face, it's not the worst thing that can happen. And that hasn't happened. But once I play it out in my mind, I'm like, all right, if that's the worst thing that can happen versus the best thing that can happen, it's a no-brainer. You have to come to LA.
You got to do it. You
have to come. And the thing is, I would have not been able to forgive myself if I didn't do it.
You would have regretted it.
And I would have been turned into an envious person. And I'm not that type of person. Like, if I see somebody winning, I'm happy for you because I'm going to win. But if I stayed back in Virginia to keep taking the money and I would have been, I'm getting good money off of sponsorships now, but I would have made so much more there, because we're in a whole mental health crisis. I had a part-time job where I'm moonlighting at another hospital, be on call. Like, I was telling my younger brother that I didn't have to like look at things back there. Like when I was buying something, I never checked prices. I haven't checked prices in a long time until I came to California. Now I watch everything. I got paid my assistants. I'm okay, how much does that cost? I'm not used to doing that because I was just making money. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll just buy it. So now having to be like more intentional with, okay, let's do this. Let's hold off on that. Let's pour more money into marketing, blah, blah, blah. But I see it like a game now. I try to make it fun for myself because I'm way happier now than back then.
I was about to say that because you have all this money back in Virginia that's just like disposable.
Right.
But it's kind of like with the not having to think about what you're spending it on. You're also with that intent. Mm-hmm. There's also that intent kind of missing in your day to day. With your movements of, just like deciding what to do with your actual life. Right. And then you feel like you're going through the motions and kind of like a zombie in a way, right?
Right. And you have, this is one thing I tell people, if you make a lot of money, but you don't own your time, you're not really free. I wasn't free. So like now here, if I wake up on a Tuesday and I'm feeling anxious for no reason, and I'm like, I need a moment, I can shut the day down. I would literally shut down. I've done it before. Shut down a day where I'm like, all right, I don't have it today. I might go to the gym, work out a little bit, take the dog out, play video games or whatever. I'm like, all right, I just don't have it today.
Congratulations on the PS5, by the way.
Thank you. I also happen to get it because
just saying, I had to interrupt.
It's so hard to get a PS5.
It's hard. Dude.
Luckily, my friend was like, he had won the right to buy one, so I quickly sent him like my credit card information. This is a good friend of mine. Yeah. And then he got the PS5 and they got shipped to me. I'm like, just in time for the winter. I'll be good. You can't be lonely with a PlayStation.
You can't.
No. I'll be good to go now.
With now that I have the games PS5, coming out,
I'll be good to go now. So sometimes I'll just shut it down, play games, and say, all right, we're just gonna chill today. I couldn't do that when you're working full time because if you're having if you take a mental health day, you can't do that when you're working full time, especially if you're working in the mental health field. Like I have to go in there and help out people at their lowest, at the most vulnerable. But if I'm not feeling it, that's hard. And I remember when I wanted to take a half day, I would have to I would call. I remember calling like Dr. Jeffries or somebody. And I'm like, hey, can you work half the day for me or blah, blah, blah. I had to like plan that out. Now I can just shut the day down if I don't want to. And then we can just reschedule everything for the next day. That's a beautiful thing. Just knowing that I can do that allows me to sometimes just go through the day. Like I'm not forced to have to push myself when I don't have it.
Yeah, because you know that. See, that's the interesting thing about having options.
Right.
Because you knew back at your old job in Virginia that you had to go through this whole process to even take a day off.
Right.
That like had a multiplier effect on already how shitty you felt. But then because you have the option, you're like, I could chill. And sometimes, because that happens to me too. Sometimes I'll be like, I don't want to do shit, And then I'll sit around. And I'll be like, you know what though? Maybe it's not one of those mental health days I needed. Maybe it's because I didn't do what I needed to do.
Right.
And then a lot of times when I go and do that, it's actually because it was because I didn't do the thing I need to do, like stand up or like edit a podcast or do some stuff. But on the other side of that, there are those days, like you were saying, we need those just to kind of just be with us, away from all the noise, and then feel a lot better. So then when you say you shut things down, you're saying like you kind of let the people know, hey, I'm gonna be fucking gone, whatever, and then you just keep your phone off or whatever and all that, or what is it?
So it depends. Like I hate like postpone like an interview or some, most things can't really be like postponed, but the way I've been doing it for the past couple of months, if we have 5 days in the week, it's probably 2 or 3 days out of those that are heavy with interviews back to back to back to back. So it might be difficult to like reschedule everything on that day. I have done it once, but I had something else that came up. But if it's a day where I have like one small meeting or I have to record a couple of stuff throughout the day, and or if there's like a brand deal that needs something, but I don't need it by that specific day, I'm like, I have time. I'll relax. I'll just take the day off. Literally take the day off, go to the dog park, walk around. Literally just walk around. I'll go outside and just walk. Just walk around. Doing nothing. Listen to music, laughing, looking at memes. Just trying to be like a regular person.
Human being.
Right. Because I have like...
Yeah.
Doing content creation is exhausting. And before that, I was working. Before that, I was in school for a very long time. So, like, I feel like I've almost been robbed of, like, the regular human experience. Like, even cooking is really difficult for me. I do a lot of DoorDash. A lot of DoorDash. Yeah, because I'm trying to think of what have I eaten recently. Is this DoorDash and DoorDash? So to be able to just sit down there and cook my own meal or to just, like, do normal people things.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll ask the housekeeper to not come so I can clean my own house. And people take that for granted because that's what they do. They cook and they clean. But like I'm still learning how to do that, honestly. I'm learning it.
Hey, that's real.
At 28, how to cook and clean. So I'm deficient in certain areas. So on a day when I don't have it, I'm like, all right, let me learn how to scrub the bathroom.
Yeah. But there's wins in those things though. That's what people don't really talk about as much. Like doing the dishes when you didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And you finish it. It's a feeling of accomplishment. Making your bed when you don't want to make it.
Right.
Like all these little chores that we avoid, doing them builds a level of self-respect and like a higher standard for ourselves, which directly impacts our everything else.
Yeah.
All right.
It's key because you can pay somebody to do it, right? And that's fine. But like when my brothers would come into town for the summer, they'd eat, Jack in the Box, DoorDash, and then they play games and they trash the place. I said, no, you have to clean up after yourself. The housekeeper is here to make our lives easier because we make content, and making content is exhausting. So if our Sundays are replaced by her coming, then we can relax. Once the house is clean, everybody's mood is lifted. So then we can make content. But if it's a Wednesday and like you trash the place, you have to clean because you have to respect yourself. Because we have 3 more days until she comes on the weekend. You're not going to leave Jack in the Box just sitting there. It's going to make the place smell. You can have flies. The dog is going to be... No, you have to clean up after yourself because it shows that you respect yourself. So if your place is dirty because you've been going through it, that's different. But if you've just been laughing and playing, clean up after yourself. And I tell myself that all the time. I'm like, don't abuse anything or any paid service. You still want to have that minimal respect for yourself.
Yeah.
It's key.
So I want to talk about those when you had to do the help the mental health with the with the like people that committed some heinous crimes, arson, murder, whatever, blah blah. And how do you, on those days where you're just fucking shit mentally, you're exhausted, you're like, oh, shit, damn. How did you keep going through that and keep it together with all the, and just, because you don't even want to hear your own thoughts, and you got to hear this, right? These people's.
So it's funny because I feel like I have a good poker face. I never played poker.
Yeah.
But I've never played it, but I'm able to keep it together.
Stoic and calm, like looking like you're chill, like statue.
You have to be able to fake the funk, and that's the same type of trait that kind of helped me back when I got my own therapist. Because I got my own therapist throughout the pandemic to see how I'm processing things, but I'm so used to like faking it or putting on the front that after the first time I met with my therapist, she was like, why are you really here again? Like, because like I know all the answers. I'm a therapist myself. It's kind of like taking a test where you have the answers. Like I already know what they're gonna say and what they're gonna ask, right? But I learned how to fake the funk. So when I was working at the hospital and I'm going through it, or let's say I'm going through a breakup or I'm exhausted or there's issues at home, like I could literally be in my office just winded. Sometimes like I would really take off suit and tie. Like I just be in there with a shirt, just kind of like, get myself together. If I hear a knock on the door, I'll, quickly see who it is, peek, see if it's a patient who's trying to get in the unit because my office is right next to the unit, or see if it's like a social worker who needs me to sign something. And every now and then the social workers will come in. And it's funny, I can remember to this day because I'll come to the hospital super early sometimes, just give me time to just kind of like chill and listen to music, just relax. And she'd come in sometimes like, hey, Dr. Sarfo, can you sign this thing? And like I'd be in there with like a t-shirt, like a workout t-shirt, and I just have like my scrubs on or like dress pants, nothing, because I'm just like relaxing. I'm just de-stressing. And then like she could tell, oh, like, have you been in here like all night, or you came early? I'm like, oh, I'm good. I'm just trying to catch up on some things. So if they see me, that's fine. But like you never want the patients to, at least in my opinion, you never want them to see you like freaking out. So if you go on the unit, right? Sometimes I go on the unit and people will be fighting or whatever. I'll go to whoever is the most aggressive and say, hey, can you come to the side? Like I'm not going to immediately approach them like we're going to force medications on you. Sometimes you would have to. But let me talk to you first like a human being, because if you're freaking out and I'm freaking out, nothing gets done. So you always stay calm, and it's like a reputation that you build. It's almost like a coach, like Phil Jackson and Bill Belichick. You never see them throwing tantrums on the sideline. They always stay calm. Win, lose, tie, they're always calm. So I feel like I had to take on that demeanor where I would stay calm. So my patients never really saw me in like, they never saw me stressed out, because they knew that like I would come through, because that's my job, right? And sometimes you feel like you're indebted to the hospital, like they're paying you a lot of money to get this job done. So you get the job done, like it's a paid service, and then you go home. And then when you go home, then you have to de-stress and be like, man, like I'm tired as hell. Like I don't feel good today, or like I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z, or I'm worried about my mom, or worried about my siblings. But like for 8 hours, you have to like put on that front. But at the same time, sometimes work was helpful for me because it gave me a chance to get away from my problems. So for 8 hours, I didn't have to think about whatever I was going through. I could just push to the side. And then once you clock out, you're like, oh, dang, man, I've been avoiding this serious conversation I need to have with a good friend. I'm pick up the phone. I'm going to call them. So, when you're at work, and with some jobs, you just can't mess up. Kind of like, I think Chris Rock has a joke where he said, pilots can't mess up, right?
Oh yeah, airplane pilots, no, they can't mess up.
It's similar to
kill
that.
Everybody,
right? Yeah. So I don't know how else to say it. Like, and of course, like you always want to make sure that people are, your clinicians are well taken care of, that they're not struggling also. So that's important too. But you just can't mess up. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I hate to say that. Like, I always advocate for like taking care of everybody, but like you have to be preemptive and just put safeguards in place. Like if I'm not there mentally, and I'm like, if it's this bad, I just shouldn't be at work. Let me take a day off for myself. Let me regroup and really get good, get some sleep. Or for me, that's the thing that would make me erratic. Lack of sleep. When I didn't have sleep, I'd be all over the place. Like if I was on call the night before, I'd be like at the hospital, and like I'd be there, but I wouldn't be there. I'm just like looking through your soul as you're talking to me because I'm tired, right?
Yeah.
So once I got sleep, I'd be good. But if your mental health is bad and you're taking care of patients, just don't come to the hospital, because a minimum level of competence is required from you. You put in the wrong medication or something like that, you can have an issue, right? Or you give the medication to somebody who's allergic, or
that's gonna be really bad,
right? You can mess up. Yeah. So if your mental health is not there, just don't come to work. But for the most part, it was there, but it takes something out of you to work in that environment. It just takes something out of you, because you have to come as empathetic, and sometimes like you see a patient come in and they've been there before, and you have to start all over again with the admission process. Okay, don't judge them. They have a substance use issue. Be empathetic. You really have to put empathy above everything. So you're constantly, it's a selfless career. You're always giving yourself over and over and over. So it's really hard to take care of yourself while taking care of other people. People don't talk about that. It's hard. There's no right answer for it. And that's why I'm going around trying to find the right answer. There is no right answer for it. You just do the best that you can. And if you know that you're doing the best from within yourself, you can't judge yourself.
That's true. It's
hard.
See, this is where it gets kind of complicated. It's the I kind of touched on it a little earlier, but like the way I was mentally and emotionally, even 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I would have already given up on a lot of things I'm doing right now. Like I would have just stopped for that day, right? But I had to force myself to keep pushing the limit mentally of what I can do. Like when I didn't want to do something, and just keep going to see, and keep doing that for like days or even weeks to see where the breaking point is, to kind of tone it back a bit. So I sometimes I feel like we kind of have to do that to see where that is, and then. But even then, even with what I'm saying, there was no clear cut answer. It's just right.
I think it's good to be able to push yourself to see how much you can take, and all of the great ones, like in history, like whether the leaders or the sports players, all the great ones push themselves to quite a level where like they were on the break of like maybe losing it because they had worked so hard. So it is good to see like how far you can go, but obviously it is different for different people. Like if you've had a long year, or you're suffering with a serious mental illness and it's tough for you to balance certain things, self-care should be prioritized over everything else. But if you feel like you have an environment where you can push yourself a little bit, why not? Like, if your family members and your friends know, okay, all right, you're going through this, it's going to be a rough October, you're doing all these different things, they're going to push themselves, but you have people who are like looking out for you, like your family members and close friends. Like they can tell like when you're going into a funk what it looks like. You're a little bit late with the text messages, you're not calling as much, you might be isolated. So if you have people who look after you, then you're like, okay, you know what, yeah, I'm going to push myself, but I know that, all right, this is where it's too much, or I have people who are going to watch me around to make sure that I can safely do it. Because it is good to know how capable you are. And people don't talk about that. We always talk about rest, self-care, but if you can push yourself, the human body can do, once you tell your mind you can do something, you can do so much. We're capable of any and everything that we want with reason, right? Yeah. Within reason. But you can do so much. So I think we should allow people to push themselves, but have those safeguards where you tell your support system, hey, this is going to be a rough month. I want to do this. Just don't do it alone. I want to do this. I want to launch this, and that. And I'm the same way. I'm always launching this or a show, or I'm trying out so many different concepts. So like I've made it okay for my PR guys to say, hey, so you're trying a lot of different things, and the way my team will say things, they're always looking for a nice way to say it. I'm like, y'all can just say it. I'm doing the most. That's what you're trying to tell me. I'm doing the most. Yeah. I'm trying this.
Just be straight up.
Right. Yeah. This time.
Stop tiptoeing, man.
Right. But they're being kind of respectful, which I appreciate. But every now and then I'll try so many different things out, and they're like, okay, we tried this out for 2 weeks. It's not working. It's not worth your time. You might want to reevaluate it, which means Kojo drop it, and you move on to the next thing. So I'm somebody who I constantly push myself, but I had those conversations with family members and friends, like, all right, hey, are you doing okay? You going to the gym? Like, I like to go to the gym. I like to play basketball. I like to do video games. I like to walk with a dog. If you're not doing those things, right, and you make your own schedule, you got to switch something up, because there's no job that's forcing you to do. You're making your own schedule. So like, why? What's going on? Are you burnt out? Do you need to take like 3-4 days from posting and just really regroup yourself? And every now and then I will have to do that just to make sure I'm back good. And then don't worry about the next viral video. Something will pop. People will respond to the message. Just take care of yourself, because it's a long game. It's almost like, that's why I have so many sports references, because the teams that are healthiest are the ones that tend to like last and win at the end. If you're not healthy, or if you're not right mentally, it's a long ass year and a half for all of us.
Yeah.
The people who are the most put together mentally are going to be the ones who thrive. And in order to do that, you have to take breaks. You have to like recalibrate and say, all right, I'm going to take a step back, or now I'm going to do a whole lot of shows, or say my parents need me this December, so I'm going to spend more time with my mom, and then kick it back into high gear in January. But as long as you're mindful of that, you will be successful. But there's some people who are just on go.
Just nonstop until they like, I feel like there's burnout, and then there's like fucking burning yourself to ashes. You know?
Yeah. It's burnout looks a lot like depression.
Yeah.
It looks a lot like it. You have and the thing people don't realize about burnout, it takes a while to recover from it. Like, I was burnt out when I left Virginia. Like, I was over. My parents like, stay for a little bit more, and they're super cautious. I'm like, nah. I broke a lease. I paid like $3,000 just to leave.
Just to get off it.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes no sense. And now I think to myself, I'm like, did I really want to leave that bad? Was it that? I don't think it was that bad. But like, I already quit my job in December 18th. I remember that's the last day of work. And I'm just there in Virginia, just chilling with my dog, just waiting for this LA thing to materialize. You know, like flying back and forth to find a place and all that. But I probably was like, I didn't recover until like maybe like April.
So you're saying from December 18 to April?
Yeah.
So how many months is that?
Like about 4 months.
4 months?
I was burnt out.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Damn.
Because I've been going so hard. I was just going so hard. And throughout this whole burnout, I was still posting videos. I was still like, because like, when you're a content creator, your brand can't stop. You can stop, but your brand can't. So like, I believe in making content and then scheduling it to post, and then taking like a 2-week break or whatever. So that way you can be a normal human being and like just relax.
Oh, so you do batch creation. You create a bunch at once, and then see, that's a thing that I forgot about.
Huge.
Well, I probably should do.
I recommend it to a lot of people.
Yeah, because it's just like now I post sometimes like 3 days in a row, and then not for a day, and then 4 days in a row, and then not for 2 days, and like that. And
well, that's fine, but for me, I have a number that I don't want to go. December might be different because I want to spend a lot of time with my family, but I don't want to go 6 or 7 days without posting.
I've done 5 before.
I've done 5 a couple of times earlier this year, but I don't want to go 6 or 7 days without posting.
Yeah, so because like that's like a long time. Like a week, I think it might be a little too long.
And it's funny because people don't. I don't know what people's opinions are on this, but I believe that. Yeah, I've never said that out loud, but I think a week without posting is too long. Yeah. And I'm a fan of breaks. I'm a whole mental health professional, but I'm a fan of breaks. So I think people should batch, and even on TikTok, that's my primary, platform. You can schedule posts in advance. I'm gonna be heavy this December. I'm gonna be heavy into that. Like, I'm gonna figure out how to incorporate mental health content into Christmas. Like, I'm gonna go all out. I'm gonna get like the little Santa hat. No, for real. I'm gonna, because that's what the kids love to see.
Santa's little mental health helper. right.
I like that. Yeah. I might take that concept.
Take it. It's yours.
I'm serious about this. I'm gonna get the Santa hat, all that stuff, the red. I'm gonna get into the Christmas spirit, and it's gonna be like, literally.
No, it's just funny the way you said, I'm gonna get into the Christmas spirit.
No, for real. It's gonna be like November 15th when I'm doing this.
Starting November to
until like maybe the first week of December. Like, I'll have skits planned. All this stuff about mental health awareness and how to show love and respect people, all that stuff. I'm gonna have all that planned and curated, and then probably the last 2 to 3 weeks of December. Now, certain TikToks will take you like 15 seconds to make. If it's something you thought of on the spot, I can do those. Like, if it's some family friend, I can do that on the spot. But the majority of my TikToks take time. I have to like see what people are asking about, and then I have to double check and make sure that wherever I'm answering, that the evidence is the most up to date evidence. Because misinformation is the worst, right?
Especially with what you're doing.
Exactly. You have the Department of Public Health and CDC attached to your name. So I'm like, all right, I don't want to lose these relationships by putting out false information. So I always double check to make sure that the information is up to date and factual. So take some thought behind my content. But if it's like a funny little dancing video and you can put it out, sure. But my actual content is going to be pre-planned like mid-November. So that December, I might not think of a post the last 3 weeks of December. It's going to be pre-planned. So that way people are getting videos from me every 2 to 3 days. Sometimes multiple videos, but you're not gonna go a long time without seeing videos from Kojo or Dr. Kojo online because it's planned in advance. Because I understand that it's a brand, but I need time to be with my family. I had to spend Christmas by myself last year because of COVID.
So damn.
This year, that's why I'm so like focused on. All right, I want to be with family this Christmas. I want to spend time with my nephews and nieces.
You gotta make up for last year, man.
Yeah, like I want to be playing like whatever games they play on. I want to just be present. So I'm preparing. Like now it's October. I'm preparing now for December. I think that's how you work a brand, but you don't want to take too long from posting because nowadays people's attention span is getting shorter. So you don't post for 3 weeks and people are like, oh my gosh, like there's so many new trends now. We like somebody else now. We like other people. I don't think they'll forget about me if I don't post in 3 weeks. But I mean, I quit my job to do this. So I see it as like a corporation. It has to go on regardless of if I'm posting or not. So that's why I'm preparing ahead, for December right now.
That's smart because you help give me a strategy for I might be in New York for like a month. I mean, that's the plan, but anything could happen. But we talked about it. But then I can plan ahead with the podcast and everything, and just have it loaded so I can focus on what I need to do because I want to go to New York just to do stand up and just boot camp the fuck out of it, like a fight camp. And straight up. And
that's smart. And we work remotely now, so you can pull off so much just working remotely. So you can be in LA or New York, and you can have a laptop, and as long as you have Wi-Fi, you can do a lot. And New York is a great place for comedy. I remember I went to the Greenwich Village Comedy Club out there when I was in New York. And I'll have to go to New York again in a couple of weeks for another short film. But it was in the Manhattan, Chelsea area. But the comedians in New York, that's a great place for comedy.
I hear that, man, because I was talking to...
It's a great place for comedy.
Dude, I was talking to one of my friends. He's one of the OGs who fucking crushes, Ron Jasal. He was talking about New York to me recently and just how they're killers out there. Like, they're constantly killing. So if you want to get better at stand-up as the craft in its purest form, he's like, you got to go to New York. Like, you can get good in LA too, but there's different animals and beasts out there. I hear. So, I haven't been, so I don't know. So
I'm still working to learn more about comedy, but the thing that impressed me about New York comedy is that I went on a Tuesday night. This is not because you bring out the big guns on Saturday night, right?
Yeah, like Fridays.
Right.
Yeah.
For prime time. This is a Tuesday night. I got in for free. They had free tickets. They're trying to pack the place.
Yeah.
Every comic, like I only saw like about 7 or 8 of them. Nobody was bad. All of them were good.
That's what really I hear. Good. Like people that don't even have like an actual name.
They were amateurs, but they were all good.
Yeah.
Like my stomach hurt afterwards. Like I was laughing so hard, and I'm like, oh my god, this is a Tuesday night. So imagine who they bring out on Saturday night. That's impressive. The people out there really work at their craft.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron. So
you'll love it out there.
I'm excited. I'm excited to go. I'm excited to push myself more because I'm used to just where I'm doing it, and I want to be in unfamiliar territory. I want to be tested. And I want to know, and I want to be humbled. I like getting humbled even more to know that I know there's levels obviously, but when you feel the pang of emotional pain of just like, fuck, okay, I knew I had a long way to go, but this kind of hurts. Yeah, I'm not as good as I thought.
It's good. Like people try and like avoid or sidestep suffering. You need suffering in life. You need those moments where you're humbled. Once you take those moments, and you internalize it and you learn from it, you become so much better. You can get real comfortable being in LA, especially like having a couple 100,000 followers. And once people know you, like a lot of what we do here in LA is kind of like for show. You know, we're pretty showy out here. But in New York, it's like they're getting out the mud. So to go to a whole new location where people are like, I don't know who Mike Kim is.
Yeah, like who the fuck are you, man?
That's the best, because then you're like, all right, you don't know about how many followers I have online. All you know is that I'm sitting here in front of you or standing here in front of you, and it's my job to make you laugh. Go.
Yeah, and that's what I like. Although I have a TikTok following, it's not like majority of people don't know or give a fuck who I am when I'm doing stand-up. If you're Kevin Hart, if you're Joe Coy, they like you. So since they already like you, it's going to help. I mean, they built that because they're fucking good. But since I'm starting from like essentially the bottom, I like that I'm getting a true reaction based off of who I am with the skill that I'm working on versus, oh, I know who he is. I should laugh like, because there's these fucking, I don't know the names and I don't need to say the names, but like some big TikToker or other fuckers that just go into stand up because they're like, everybody loves me. And they don't know how to do stand up at all. Because they don't put in the effort, they don't put in the work, and they think
it's an art.
You know, it's art, yeah.
That's why I love comedy, and I respect it so much. I respect the art because I know people put so much time into it. You know, and like I told you, I'm flirting around with getting on stage, and the reason why
I'm excited.
I'm excited for it too.
Dog, I'm pumped. Yeah.
You know, and I want to go, and of course I'll do some open mics where I just have to be funny, but like I'm pretty confident that I can post something on Instagram and we can sell out the comedy show, and they're gonna laugh. Like when you like somebody, you kind of feel inclined to like laugh at their jokes, like because you're their friend. So if a joke is like kind of funny, like the joke was kind of funny. Some jokes are super funny. Some jokes are like
courtesy laughs.
Right.
Yeah.
A really fun joke is when people are on the phone and they stop watching it and they're laughing. Like you have their attention. You know, so that's the thing about being in LA and being in Hollywood. Once you have a following, you know, we like to kind of embellish, all of us naturally, myself included. We like to kind of put on a show. So by having a big following, you know, you post online, people come out to your show. It's almost like you're taking, kind of like you're cheating, like you're taking a shortcut when it comes to comedy. So like, as I get on there, I want to respect the art because people have worked really hard. People work hard. People put hours into their day perfecting a joke. They go perform. It doesn't, you know, do well. They revise the joke, you know, and then they put it out in a different way. It gets a whole lot more laughs. You do a joke in Van Nuys, it might be different from when you do it in Huntington Beach, right? Different vibes. So like, it's an art to it. So I want to respect the art. You can't just come on stage and say, oh, I have almost 2 million followers. People will like, no, you don't want to do that. And I think this city, out of all cities in the U.S., is the best place where you could do that. Like if you wanted to put on, you could put on here in L.A., especially with a large following. And then you might do so well, and then after a year, people are like, wait, he's not even funny. Why are we laughing? He's not funny.
Yeah.
I want to actually be, like, if it's not funny, don't laugh. Don't laugh. Like,
but you know why? You know why you think like that too? Because you're an athlete, man. Because with sports, you can't fake to make the field goal, or you can't fake getting the touchdown. Yeah. Because you're gonna get sacked. You're gonna get fucked up, right? Yeah. So that's why you having that background, because you play football, right? Yeah. You were playing football in high school and all that.
In high school, yeah.
Yeah, pretty religiously, right?
Yeah. Safety, I was number 31. I used to like Cortland Finnegan for the Titans, so I had his number, and I wish I would have played more, and I think I could have done it. But see, back then I was like 6'2", 6'3", like 140 pounds. I was really skinny. Like I was getting, if I was this size now, man, like I'd have been in the league. I'd have been in the NFL. Like I'd be playing for the Rams or the Titans or the Chiefs or something. I would have been in the league. You know, but sports is a great way of learning life lessons. So like I miss sometimes being in, you know, the locker room with those guys for the brief time that I did play. You know, just the camaraderie. Like you learn to depend on other people. And people who play team sports is a great way of teaching like kids, you know, life lessons. Like I plan to have my kids in sports. Football, I'm not sure. I don't know how.
Because the brain health and all that.
Yeah. I don't know if I want my kids. Right. Or traumatic brain injuries. You know, but I love football. It's my favorite sport. But I'm not sure if humans should play it. So I'm not sure how I'll feel when I have kids. I'll have to cross that bridge when I get there. But I want my kids playing some sort of team sports because you learn so much about life. Because in life, you need other people. Like, it's not a one-man show. You need other people. You have to learn how to take a loss. You have to learn how to win gracefully. And sometimes you also have to talk your shit too, just to tell people like
let them know something.
Right, right. But you can big up yourself without tearing somebody else down.
That's facts.
That's the true confidence.
That's facts. That's facts.
No, it's funny because I was unrelated, but I saw Drake and J. Cole brought Drake out at a concert, and then Drake was saying how J. Cole had mentioned that he doesn't get the respect or something like that, and Drake was like, I just want you to know you are one of the greatest rappers to ever touch the mic. And I'm sure that meant a lot for J. Cole to hear that from Drake, who we say is the GOAT. And, people always say, oh, who's better? This. You can have two legends. You can have two, you can like Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle and Kevin Hart. You can like Mike Kim and, whoever
Asian.
whoever else is performing.
Just in general. Just in general. No, I know, dude. I know what you mean because it's always like we have to choose a side.
Right.
Why is it that there has to be a side?
Right.
Why can't it be just they're both great in their own right?
Right.
Why? Because you could learn from both of them or all of them.
Right.
Yeah. So I like that you said that.
Yeah. You two legends can coexist.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a clear cut. We're all doing good. That's the goal.
That is the goal. You know, when you were talking about when you said that content creation is exhausting, it is tiring. But then and then I was thinking about myself and I was like, yeah, it gets tiring. And I was like, but it's not that the way like you were admitting like that exhaustion. And then you went into because you have to think about your profession and then all these extra like areas. So that's just even thinking about that and like double, triple, quadruple checking, that would tire the hell out of me. And also that would also make me get really anxious. And that anxiety and that nervousness is very tiring, I would imagine. Yeah.
It's tough. And like as of now, I don't know how it'll be when this podcast is released or later or whatever, or at the end of the year, I don't know. But as of now, like within the world of psychiatry, I have the most followers online. There's no psychiatrist or nurse practitioner or PA that has more followers than me online. And that's largely in part to TikTok, right? I got 100-some K subscribers on Instagram. So it's like people see you as a voice of a certain thing. So it leaves little to no margin for error. And people will come and say, and if you ever watch one of my lives, people will come and say, hey, blah, 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 I'm on this medication, blah, blah, what should I do? I'm like, first of all, I can't comment on that. You have to go to your doctor or your provider for that. But people will ask you about social anxiety or ADHD or a certain condition, and they take your word as a gospel. It used to be back in the day, you had to go to Harvard or some big school. I went to Augusta University. It's a good school, but used to have your experts who had put in years and years of work, right? And I have done that to some extent, so I'm not putting myself down, but because of the large following that I've accumulated, you're now the expert on a certain topic. So now
that's Harvard to them.
Right.
Yeah.
So now, even though I feel like I know how to explain depression or something like that, I'm like, okay, I know what that looks like. I know what major depressive disorder looks like. But then if I post about it, I'm like, all right, let me double check. I'm like, all right, blah, 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 2 weeks, apathy, fatigue. I have to really check because I'm like, you know what? I can't make a mistake because I'm already highly visible. You make a mistake and people, oh my gosh, they're sharing the video. That's not right. So a lot of planning goes into the TikTok.
Yeah.
And I never realized that until as of late when I made a TikTok and I went live. I can go live for hours.
Oh shit, my bad. Oh, I gotta replace the battery.
I forgot. Yeah.
So we forgot. Guys, we had the camera ran out of battery, and then we got into a whole conversation outside of the podcast, and then we forgot where we stopped. But it's okay because you know what? You got what you needed up to that part. Moving on. So I want to talk about your shirt, the ADHD thing, because first of all, I like that shirt. It looks cool, and I like that you put a positive spin on attention deficit hyperactive disorder.
Yeah.
It's you put it as on your shirt, amazing, dedicated, hilarious, dynamic. Because there's always a strength and a positive that can come from a quote unquote negative. For instance, before we go into it, I have a lot of anxiety. I transmute my anxiety into excitement, enthusiasm, and to get me going. Because I know that if I sit there and I don't do anything with that anxiety, it overwhelms me and it turns into this weird, it kind of shape shifts into depression. And what I think is depression, but it's actually not. And I'm feeling overwhelmed. But that using that anxiety to like, no, this is energy, leads me to working out, leads me to doing my stand-up and just going, out and about. And in fact, can lead to being more present when I tap into that energy. So
that's awesome.
Right. And so ADHD is something that you've been dealing with your whole life? Or?
Yeah, I've been dealing with it my whole life. And I felt like I knew I had it at a young age, but my mom, religious household, and we come from Ghana, West Africa. So,
shout out to the Ghanaians.
Yeah. Shout out to Ghana.
I always screw it. Is it Ghanaians or
Ghanaians?
Ghanaians. I always screw it up.
It's kind of difficult to say. It's understandable. But yeah, my mom was like, you're the healed of the Lord. We're going to pray for you. And, I don't think my family had, they had limited understanding of mental health conditions, like a lot of us do. So I don't blame them, but, always kind of spaced out in class, disrupting the class, being a class clown, never able to really sit down and focus on one thing, fidgeting as a kid, and, as an adult, being late to places, having a hard time as it relates to time management, time blindness, time just escaping me for no reason, things taking much longer for me to do than other people. I've always felt that way, and people always say, oh, you've done all these amazing things, like you've written a book or, whatever the accolades they say I've done. And I'm like, yes, that's true, but the average person or the neurotypical person should have completed this task within 3 weeks. It took me 2.5 months. I did it well, but it takes me longer than most people to do stuff because, of how spaced I am. And it's different now having a team of assistants that can kind of like cover up my deficiencies. But it can be frustrating to live with ADHD. And a lot of my content on TikTok has gone viral when I'm, illustrating what ADHD can look like. And that's allowing people to feel, heard and to, to be seen for the first time, that validation that they haven't had throughout their whole lives. So as I'm talking about how ADHD can affect you, I got the shirt to talk about some of the things, the positive, things of people who have ADHD, very intelligent, very creative, very expansive. Sometimes you might hyperfocus and, go off on a tangent, but you might learn about a topic and become an expert in that. So I wanted to bring some positivity to, a condition that frustrates a lot of us on a day-to-day basis. So that's what the shirt is for. And I hope to have the shirt and a lot more of the skits. But I'm just always happy to send a message with my clothing, because sometimes when a video goes viral, I'm always interested in seeing what people pick out from the video. And of course, people say, oh, thank you for talking about social anxiety. Thank you for talking about ADHD. But if you look at some of the comments, folks are like, where'd you get that poster from in the background? And people will DM me like, hey, where'd you get that legacy poster from? Where'd you get the greatness poster from? I like that shirt. And I'm like, oh, your shirt, your messages on your shirts or whatever is in the background can be a way of sending a, like a subliminal message to somebody. Like, that's not why they're watching, but you can also put that in front of them. So if people are watching a video and it goes viral, if 3 million people watch my video, then they watch the shirt. They see the shirt. True. And they can see some of the positive traits. And there's also marketing too. So
branding, all that.
Branding, yeah. And I got my logo on the. I should have brought you a shirt.
You should have. You know what?
I should have.
I'm disappointed.
As you should.
You know what? I'm not even disappointed. I'm sad.
As you should be. As you should be.
I would rock that. I would rock that for real.
I got you.
Because it looks like you got the type of material that's comfortable, but it's like also like fitted. Like it would fit the frame pretty nice.
I got you. I don't have an extra ADHD shirt, but I have an extra shirt that I got you. I know you got the show coming on Tuesday.
Hell yeah.
I got you. Yeah, it will be out there.
I'll rock that. I swear I will.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And if you're rocking it at the show, then yeah.
Yeah. Maybe not at the show because it might distract. Because on shows I like to wear no patterns, just plain
really?
color. Because I don't want to do don't want to wear anything that can remotely distract from what I'm doing. So I already wear neutral colors and all that, but if I have like a patterned lined shirt that's like maroon and then navy blue, maroon, navy blue, you know, like somebody could be looking at me like a girl and then being like, that shirt makes him look like Freddy Krueger, and she's just thinking about Freddy Krueger the whole time. You know what I mean?
I did not know that.
Yeah, little things like that, and even wearing shorts. There's like a rule, an unwritten rule where you're not supposed to, like, you shouldn't be wearing shorts with flip flops or even shorts in general. You really shouldn't be wearing that on stage because they're gonna look at your legs. They're gonna notice like maybe you got hairy legs or you got cankles. Or maybe like your legs are,
I can see that,
or too skinny for your upper body, or maybe your legs are too big for your upper body, and just like random shit, right? Just things that
I can see that
is unnecessarily detracting from your presence and your message. So I like even my watches. Like I have a silver watch that can reflect light.
I did not know that.
And shine, and I won't wear those. I'll wear the ones that have the rubber banding on it to where it's like black and matted, so it doesn't reflect anything. Because I still want to wear a watch, but by not having that crazy, because it could shine and then they look at that silver watch for like a second or two, like, what kind of watch is that? Already, that's gonna take them out of the whole world I brought them into. Because the point is to get all their attention on stage and bring them into my world, right? And together, and we thrive together by me telling jokes and them laughing. But I need to bring them into my world by,
is
like
that
hypnotizing
just you,
them.
Or is that all comics?
I haven't spoken directly to like about like, because some people that are pros will wear like a nice Rolex or whatever, but that's more maybe for like a special because they want to show something. But even then,
okay, that makes sense.
For my philosophy, I think that's distracting because I was thinking about the watch the whole fucking time.
Okay, okay, yeah, I'll keep that in mind whenever I do a set. And it's interesting because a lot of the branded content that I do, obviously, like I'm not gonna have brands and where I'm making a video for somebody, but they have also mentioned that like wear like a black T-shirt or even that would work.
Yeah, just simple.
That would work.
Yeah,
they don't like stripes or patterns, and I never really understood why. Like, of course, they'll tell you not to wear the colors of like a competitor. I get that, but like the stripes and I've been told not to wear striped shirts and patterns. So
are these for videos or what?
This is for like when you work with like a company on like a brand deal. They'll say, hey, we're gonna pay you X amount of money for this video. Make this video and post it on Instagram or TikTok, and this is what we want to achieve. This is objective. And then, for example, when I did something with Uber, they're like, don't wear lift colors. That makes sense, right? But then they're also like, I don't remember if it was them, but they'll say stuff like, oh, don't wear patterns, don't wear stripes, don't wear whatever. And I think it's because they want to distract away from the actual point that you're trying to drive home in the video.
Yeah, the message and all, because especially patterns. Patterns, when people look at a pattern, it's like whether it's horizontal, vertical, or like a fucking like a sunflower every 2 inches on a button-up shirt that's navy blue or whatever. It could remind them of another person or like you were saying, like a brand. It's like when you hear a name, you hear Kimberly. I hear Kimberly, I'm thinking of the Pink Ranger from Power Rangers, the original. You hear Kimberly, you could be thinking of your ex-girlfriend.
All right.
Right? So it's like that. That's kind of how I look at it.
I had a coworker with that name, Kimberly, yeah.
Was she attractive?
She's married. She's
there
married.
You go. That's what, okay. I like that.
She's married, so I always respected that.
Respect them. Yeah, yeah.
Shout out to Kim.
Look at this gentleman right here.
PR train.
Yeah, PR train. But
shout out to Kim. I had to text her the other day. She had texted me in April, and she said, "Hey, how are you doing?" And I just realized I never sent a message back, and I only realized that because I texted her to ask her about something, and I'm like, "Damn, I gotta do better." Side note, sorry.
Yeah, side note.
Yeah.
Side note. But yeah. But anyways, going back to the stage thing. Yeah, just fucking, minimizing as much distractions as possible. That's what I believe, and that's what I go by. And yeah, that's
that makes sense. And I've seen certain comedians, like if they have something on their shirt or on their jacket or on their shoe, I've seen myself like fixate on that throughout the whole set.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, they're kind of funny, but I can't stop. Like, you have that bubble gum, like, or like a stain, or some. It just throws you off.
Yeah,
it does. And it's hard to enjoy the experience when you're thinking that, and you're like thinking, are other people like watching this? Like, are they also seeing this? Do they see the glare from the this big Rolex is throwing out everything? So like, I can see why you wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah. So and it works out. That's why I'm glad I don't have a hairstyle. I just shave my head every morning and
you shave every morning?
Every single day. Sometimes if I don't go out, I won't shave it at most for like the next day.
So if you don't shave it, your hair will grow like that?
I can grow my hair like that, but I don't want to do that because it smells like shit.
Oh, okay.
Because when my hair was long like that and I had to put gel and my head sweats a lot, and for some reason it's like stench gets trapped in it, and then like if I just go the whole day with the gel and then the hair, it just it's like my head smells, and it's been like that since I was a kid. It's a weird thing that it's not even me just being self-conscious about. It's a legitimate fact where it smells disgusting.
And you shave your head every morning?
Every morning, yeah.
So when's the last time you paid for a haircut?
Well, even before that, I was cutting my own hair for, what is it, since 2021?
Wow.
22. So I'm 32, so like 10 years. Like, I would give myself a fade and everything. I had to learn because I went to a barber, and then the barber, he never cut my hair right. He never really cared. Even though I'm paying him money and I'm tipping him, he would. I was literally the experiment. Like, he would have his brother help him cut hair on like another chair, and then but the actual barber was good at it, the main barber who owned the place. But then he realized I'm like younger and used me as a guinea pig. So his brother, you would use me for training, but I couldn't put two and two together. I kind of had a feeling, but I was like, I don't know. And the dude was not good at cutting hair, and I'm paying him the same rate as the main guy,
and it's expensive.
Yeah, and it was almost looking like the main guy, he was almost like irritated with me because I would ask him, hey, can you go over the top one more time? Because I'm going home and I had to fix it with my own scissors.
No, you should be. Yeah. If you're paying, you should not be having to.
And this is when I knew this is when I started cutting my own hair. When I actually went to the main guy because the brother wasn't there, and he cuts my hair, and he hadn't cut my hair for like months. And then I'm like, hey, can you go over the top just once? And he's like, Michael, you always do that. You always like asking me to go over the top again. I already did it. How many times, man? I did it. He like went off on me. He's I don't know. He's like from the hood and shit. But even then, I'm like, that's not an excuse. Like it's Yeah. And back then I had no boundaries and self-respect. And I was scared of the world still at the time at 21. So I leave feeling all sad after I pay him, and then I'm about to get in the car, and my guilt led me to go back, and I tipped him more because I thought that right. Exactly, but at my age now, with my confidence, who I am, I would have been like, man, you fucking suck at cutting hair. Like, what is this shit? What kind of business are you running? And then I would have given him a bad score and all that. But yeah, like that's. I'm kind of glad that happened because then it made me have to cut my own hair because I was too scared to go back because I couldn't go to any other barbers because I had such bad anxiety still at up to 21 that I was afraid to try to find a new barber. So I kept going to the same barber even though he made me feel uncomfortable all the time and did never cut my hair right because I would have rather just. It's like being in an unhealthy relationship, a toxic relationship, because you're too afraid to be alone.
Wow, yeah. You said something there, and anxiety manifests in so many different ways, and it's good that you're able to recognize that. Obviously on the back end, but when you put out a story like that, or when people watch the podcast, then they're like, okay, wow, I can relate to that. I didn't know that was a side of anxiety. My anxiety presents like this or like that. And it's gonna help a lot of people because, like you said, you went back to tip the person out of guilt, and then when you don't have boundaries, sometimes those things happen. And the hardest thing about boundaries is that the first time that you have to implement them is the scariest time.
Oh yeah.
And people never really get around to that first time because once you can do that successfully and you move past that, you normally don't go back. Once you see what respect feels like, you never really go back to disrespect.
Yeah.
And then now you're out here respecting yourself, cutting your own hair. That's a success story.
And I'm not gonna take shit like that. I'm not gonna give. Yeah. It doesn't mean I have to argue or fight with them. I'm gonna speak my mind to a certain point, or sometimes I'm just gonna just bounce and just not tip him again, and just be like, in my mind as I'm leaving quietly, I'm gonna give you 1 star. and then tell all my friends to give you 1 star. if I'm evil like that, I haven't done that, but I like to fantasize the dark shit. But you know, the boundary is I'm not gonna go back. I'm not gonna support your business, and I'm gonna just warn people that I know personally if they decide to go to you, and that's really it. And do my own thing, because if I keep dwelling on it, what's that gonna do?
Yeah, and haircut is important. Yeah. At least for me, and whenever I go,
it's for all of us. It is.
A new barber, like the back of my head, like I always kind of like I know that I also new barber, shave my head, but shave it with a 2-guard. Don't go any lower than a 2-guard, because the back of my head when you go lower than a 2-guard, it tends to kind of roll up and it looks a little funny.
Roll up? What do you mean? What?
So like
skin wise?
Yeah, so like the skin kind of gets bunched up towards the back.
Oh, you mean like I got a wrinkle like this?
Like that, but more pronounced.
But only in like a small area though, right?
No, over the back of my head.
Like this though?
Like that.
Like are we talking indentations?
Yes, but much more pronounced.
So you're the same thing I have. It's cute. It's called Cutis Verticis Gyrata.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually looked it up, and I've never even talked about it, but like that's been an insecurity of mine. So I always kind of keep my hair at least a 2-guard.
Dog, do you know why we just became better friends?
Why?
Because do you know why I shaved my head like this? I shaved it this low during lockdown. Before lockdown, less than a year and a half ago, or I mean, before Corona,
right?
I always cut it one clip on the side, high fade into a 4. Because I kept the top long because I always felt wrinkles, and I thought I hid it for 15 years because I imagined it looking like 50 times worse. Yeah. So I was scared. And during lockdown, I wanted to know. I was like, I got to face all my demons. That's why I started shaving it low, because I always wanted to shave it low like this.
You're ahead of me.
Huh?
You're ahead of me.
Yeah, but it was scary as fuck, dog. And I made a video on YouTube cutting it for the first time. I almost cried. Like I was so scared. I legit almost started crying.
I see that.
Yeah. And then you should watch it, because the first time I cut it live on the video, and then I do a follow-up video 2 or 3 months later of me talking about how I got used to it and the lessons I learned and how much it did for my confidence. You know, it improved my stand-up, it improved my confidence living out in the world, and improved my self-love for myself, because I was avoiding that, and I was always self-conscious of it for up to 30 years old. 30 to 31. That literally controlled. That was a thing I thought about all the time, because even with the 4 on the top, which is like a half an inch long or something like that, you could still see some lines, because with the indentations of the hair, it looks darker, and within the indentations, right? Because it looks like a little valley, and it was a thing that made me feel like I would literally, if I'm talking to a girl that I like, I would not turn my back to her, because if I turn my back to her and I tilt my head back just a little bit more, like backwards, you could see it more, just enough. And I'm thinking she knows that I got these bumps on my head, and she's gonna not be attracted to me, and she's gonna fucking want to like leave me. And I'd think about it all the time. Or if a girl would want to rub my head, she's rubbing my head, I'm like, I want to smack her hand away, because I'm thinking she's feeling my imperfections, she's feeling my genetic defects, and she's so disgusted by me. And I'm making up all these stories in my head. I'm making up stories of me going to walking in the market, and somebody saying that line, and they're talking shit to their friend for 15 years.
I'm laughing because I feel
you. Feel it? You feel that?
I feel it, and it takes me back to like, wow. It takes me back, because people nowadays like, oh, I bet you don't get rejected by girls or whatever, or you don't struggle. I don't really struggle, because I don't really care too much about what a woman's opinion of me is. If she likes me, great. Like
the end result, you're not attached to it.
Right, I'm not attached to it. Like I'm doing good, and of course I don't maybe get as many rejections or whatever like in the past. But I remember growing up, like that right there, it would frighten me. And sometimes people will joke about it, and every now and then, people might make a joke about something that you're insecure about. Yeah, and you have to play it off to show that you don't really care.
But you care.
It would hurt.
Yeah, it hurts.
I remember having the cut in school, and it'd be too low, and then people would be making jokes like, boy, the back of your head looks silly, and I'd be laughing. I'm like but then I'm like, oh, man, I can't wait for the hair to grow back.
Yeah,
like that would hurt me. Like boy, or sometimes like kids would be like to the back of my head, and I'm like, damn, like, and I'll just laugh along with it, because if you laugh along with it, then they're like, oh, Coach, I'm just joking. I'm like, yeah, and then like I'll joke about them. I'm like, man, your shoes, and then you're just roasting back and forth, right?
Yeah.
And that way it goes from being somebody who is potentially bullied to, oh, we're just roasting back and forth.
Yeah, we're just boys like fucking around. But as you're roasting,
we're not boys.
You still feel you're not really boys.
Right.
And when you're laughing, you're fucking faking laugh so hard to try to like be like, no, I'm good, but you still feel that for even up to like a week or longer. It just stays with you.
I remember, and plus I didn't have good teeth growing up too.
Yeah.
My teeth were like, I had to wear Invisalign twice. Shout out to Invisalign. But I wore Invisalign, and my teeth were like, I had like gaps, like multiple gaps, like all over the place. That with the back of my head, and the kids saying that the back of my head was silly. It was rough growing up, So once you come into like your final form, right?
Yeah, final form.
Right. Your final form, and like once you've evolved and like you're living your truth and you're being authentic, I think it puts you in a position to like, to tell the kids online, like, hey, I went through this. And like, as we're talking about this is giving me ideas. Like I might make a TikTok saying, here are my insecurities, literally, and tell people. Because like now, like I've been comfortable for a while. Like, things are going well. So like you get comfortable, but it's good to make yourself uncomfortable and like sometimes put yourself in that position. And like, even as a clinician, every now and then it's good to sit in silence with the patient. Sometimes people will tell you something that like, there's just no, like maybe they were like molested or something like that happened to them. There's no correct answer for that. Sometimes it's just best to sit in silence and just sit there with your patient and say, I'm so sorry if, we could have done something back then. Like you have to go through that, right? Like you put yourself there and you just listen. It shows that you care for them, right? And in that situation, I don't know what that feels like, but I can only imagine. Now with this situation, I know exactly what it feels like to be bullied for your teeth or for how your hair looks like. So if somebody's like, you're telling me like, I'm laughing because I'm like, man, like I know this story. Like
it's almost like a relief too, and you feel more connected as humans and as a people. Not like not even just like man or bros, but like a fucking human to human vulnerable connection. Because this is the thing I forgot to tell you too is I accelerated the process of me accepting it by putting it out on TikTok also, where I was like, you know what? I got to put out this vulnerability because I'm imagining how people are roasting me, strangers, and I'm like, I don't even know what they're really saying, like, to be honest. So why am I creating demons in my mind? So let me just have TikTok roast me. Because at that time, I already had a little bit of a following, but this is when videos could still go viral pretty easily. So I was just like, let's go, let's fucking. And this is when people were being extra harsh back then because there wasn't really community guidelines. They'd go in, right? Like in. So I just said, this is my biggest physical insecurity, and here it is. And I showed it. I'm like, I have this thing. And then this is before I learned how to cut it low too. So I would cut it low like a one clip, but it would still look way worse because the hair in between the ridges in the lines would make it look extra dark. And I was like, I'm afraid to do this. That means I got to do it because I'm tired of this being my ball and chain. I'm fucking tired of this. So I put it out there. And guess what happened? I didn't get one negative comment from strangers. You know what and these are kids and adults. They said, yo, natural waves, bro. Or somebody's like, you look badass. It looks like you like you're like action hero. Or it's just something just all positive. When my previous videos would get roasted hardcore for whatever would happen, it had nothing to do with the way I looked. It was just, the content that would come out of my mouth, which is acceptable because and then because of that, and then people weren't really making fun of me. And then I was afraid to go to the market. Even then, I would wear hats, even though I'd shave it every day. Just to try to, face my fears. And I'm like, fuck, why am I doing this? I should go out my hair again. But it took like 6 or 7 months to really fully embrace it. But
congrats on that.
Yeah, but it was tough, man. I was scared to go to the market. I'm like, dude, these people are fucking looking at my head. And I kept going to the market. I'm like, today my goal is to go to the, and this is during like lockdown still. I'm going to go to the market without my hat. And my hat was always next to me in my car for like a bailout, if I change my mind. And fucking every time I just wear the hat. And then finally after, I don't know how long of that, like a week or 2 weeks of that, I'm just like, dude, just do it. Just do it. And I remember walking around the first time at that Vaughn's without my hat, and then like my fucking lines showing extra, like I said, because it was a one clip and you can see darker. You can't really see it as much when it's skin fade or skin. Right. So then I walked around.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Right. I walked around,
darker,
and then I'm like, dude, these fucking people are looking at my head. I feel it. I know they are. And I'm looking around. I'm looking behind me, and I'm like, okay, they aren't. And I'm in the aisle looking for like garlic salt, and then a girl stands next to me, and I'm like, oh my god, she's pretty cute. Fuck. And then that makes me more self-conscious because I'm whatever I imagine that judgment that's coming from her is multiplied by like 10 because she's like a girl that I think is attractive. So I put extra value to her words that aren't even there, which is right. What the fuck is that? Right. And I'm waiting in line, and then I'm trying to keep facing forward, knowing there's like 10 people behind me, and I'm like, every single one of these motherfuckers are probably thinking, what the hell is that on the back of his head? So then when I get really self-conscious, then I pretend like I want to look at the candy to the right side so they see the side of my head. So they can't, because the back is where they see it the most, because that's where it's more heavy indents. And yeah, but just over time, it just slowly went away because I just kept going out into public places because exposure therapy, right?
Right.
Yeah, and then now it's my trademark. People recognize because of that. Like it helps me. Funny enough. So who knew?
That's exactly what it is, and it's natural to feel that way, especially when you value somebody's opinion for whatever reason, you're close to them or somebody you're attracted to, you might start to hypothesize about what they're thinking about you, you know. And like I same situation where I was cutting my hair. Funny story, back at West Alabama, I was cutting my hair and I messed it up. So I knocked at some guy's room. I'm like, hey, man, I messed up my hair. They laughed a little bit, then they decided to just cut it all off. You know, so somebody had some clippers and they helped me out. But then now I'm bald, and then you can see like every single ridge, crevice. You can see it in HD. So in HD.
Well, now 4K.
Right, 4K. So like I went to school. I wore a hat and I wore a do-rag. I should have just worn a hat to be discreet. But the fact that I wore a hat and a do-rag, you know, my classmates were like, Kojo, what's up? You got a haircut? Oh my gosh, you got a haircut. And then some girls like, oh my gosh, you got a haircut. And it brings more attention to you. Let me see your haircut. So I'm chilling right now. Kojo, it's 90 degrees outside and we're in Alabama. I'm like, I'm just chilling right now. And I would not take off my hat. And it was a girl that I was attracted to. She was there in the area too. And it's funny because afterwards, after graduation, like I didn't like her that much, but I think she liked me. But either way, at that time, I'm like, oh, I like that girl so much, and I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna let her see that. And she never saw it. I would not allow myself to take off. I'm like, nah, you have to kill me.
I feel you on
I'm going down swinging.
Yeah.
You have to kill me to It's funny. To see it back of my head, you got to kill me. Yeah. I will not allow
But that's what it feels like, though. When you have this insecurity, that it's funny, the more you try to hide it, the more, like you said, you bring attention to it.
Yeah.
Because if you, like you said, the reason they notice is because you double layered that shit in the Alabama heat. But if you just wore a hat, they're like, they're like, it's hot, but it's style too.
Right. Everybody wears hats in Alabama.
Yeah, because it's still covering your face, whatever, from the sun. Who knows?
But you know, like with a snapback, even with a snapback, you have that little space at the back.
Oh, the little opening, right? The little window of justice.
Right. That's why I wore it. This is well thought out.
Oh, that's why.
This is well thought out. And like when it comes to insecurities, you know exactly what you're insecure about in your body. People will go to great lengths to keep that body part from showing. You'll add on extra clothing. You'll hide it because you don't like that part of yourself. You know. And for me, I'm like, all right, just give it 2 more weeks and then it'll grow. But you know, you feel grotesque. I'm like, why would a woman ever want to touch me like this? Like, you tell yourself all these bad things, but you forget that you're still a human being. You're still worthy of love, respect, attention, regardless of however your head looks like. So, I mean, props to you for cutting it off. You know, I don't know if I'll ever cut my hair off. I don't know if that's my style. But if, you know, my barber ever messes up, and every now and then a new barber will cut it too low, but I don't cover it up when that happens. I just let it be there. And sometimes my family members will say, oh, man, I see the back of your head. I know what they're talking about. Everybody has the back of their head. But when they say, I'm like, I know what they're talking about, but I care a little bit less and less, you know, as time passes.
Just over time, man. Yeah. And, you know, when I'm on dates and girls can see my hairline still, you know. They're like, why do you shave your head? You don't look like you're balding. And, you know, I'm like, yeah, I should do it. And they're like, why? And then I tell the story. And before I used to kind of avoid it a bit, but then I'm like, no, just tell them what the fuck it is. And if they want to judge me, they want to judge me. No girl has judged me negatively. No human has judged me negatively. You know, it's because it's relatable.
You've owned it.
I fully owned it, and it's become my fucking thing. And yeah, like people say it makes me look more masculine. And I mean, even then, and most of the time nobody notices it unless I talk about it. But in my mind, it was a resting dragon, just guarding the treasure of my soul, the freedom, right? Which it was a chosen self-imprisonment.
Right.
For 15 years. That's a long goddamn time, dog.
It's liberating when you get to the other side. And people don't understand, but it's hard to get there. So
it is hard.
Respect to people who are on their journeys. But like, especially in social settings or dating or friendships, it's really hard. And I remember like, I talk about my teeth too. Like when I finally was able to like fix my teeth, you know, I feel like I've put maybe like $10,000 into my teeth. But before I had the money to fix it, like that was a glaring insecurity. Like if you look at my high school photos, like I was never smiling in them.
Like you would have a tight lip smile. You wouldn't show your teeth like like that.
Right. And I don't talk about, and I'm going to talk about this more. You're inspiring me to talk about this on TikTok because people think that like everything is perfect now. Like, oh, you see you on, you know, these advertisements on front pages, but it was a rough struggle to get to this point. And I feel like I might be doing my, you know, 17-year-old self a disservice. Like that was still a boy who was worthy of love and respect and attention. And he did his best. So even though I'm a grown man now, I still want to honor the child in me that was struggling with all those issues. Like I will post about that on TikTok because it's important for people to know, you know. And I remember being on a date where like, I think I laughed too hard. I never talked about this publicly before. You're getting the good stuff out of me. I remember being on a date. I'll never forget. I remember the girl's name. Obviously I won't mention it, but we're in Atlanta. We're at, not Underground Atlanta, but the other spot, some nice spot in Atlanta. We took her out to the movies or whatever. And we're about to head to some fancy restaurant. And I was trying to show off. I'm going to this restaurant that I can't even pronounce what the food there is. But I'm trying to show off, you know. I'm
impressor.
Young. I have a little bit of money in my pocket. So she said something that was funny. And then I started, you know, laughing my ass off. I was like, ah. And I laughed in the manner that I don't laugh normally because I laughed strong on my teeth. And I feel like the way she looked at me, she kind of had like a look of disgust in her face. But it wasn't like overt, but it was kind of like, damn. Like literally in my mind, I'm thinking that she's thinking, damn, his teeth are fucked up. And she never said anything, but like sometimes like you'll catch a glimpse from somebody and that tells it all. And then that's the only moment that I thought to myself, I need to fix my teeth. I'm already like 20 at that point. And I had the same teeth that I had my whole life. I was never that like, oh, gung-ho about fixing them. But then seeing that look from her face, like I'll never forget that. I'm like, like you feel so undesirable. Like that's probably the moment in my life that I felt the most undesirable. I've never felt that way. Obviously, like after that, you know, I haven't felt that way. But if that's how I felt in that moment, think about how many kids feel that way on a day-to-day basis. And sometimes you can grow your hair out, you can fix your teeth, but sometimes there might be parts of yourself that you don't like, and the only path is acceptance. You have to accept that and embrace it so that you can grow into fully loving who you are. You know, so I will talk about that, but like I like when kids come to me and, you know, I showed you my DMs, kids DM me about all kinds of stuff. And legally, I can't reply because sometimes it puts me in an awkward position. But I get it. I really do get a lot of the stuff that they're talking about with the insecurities and the body dysmorphia. Because I've been there. It's an awful feeling, especially when you want to be liked by your peers. It's an awful feeling like you're on the outside looking in.
Yeah, man.
It's tough.
I mean, the teeth thing too. Like, so I used to take a lot of XC. So like, you grind your teeth hard from that, and then I have overbite. Okay. I didn't get braces like I was supposed to, because I was too worried about how people would judge me for that. And then now, because of that, my bite's off, and because it's off, my two front teeth, they're really chipped. Also because like I hit it on accident with spoons and stuff like that. But they're kind of jagged, you know. So even after I shaved my head like that low, if I was around a girl that I was really attracted to, I would start to I got really self-conscious and started to suppress the. And this is after during lockdown, I had my tooth again with a fucking metal spoon because I don't know how to eat like a normal person. So
Dang.
I went too fast in, and then it chipped it, and then it made it more noticeable. And that's when it like really fucking got in my head. And for months, I couldn't smile fully like I normally did, and it even made me want to almost spend money that I don't have. Like I really don't have the money to be spending money like that. And this is all cosmetic right now. And then finally, I'm just like, dude, if you accepted your head, you know, your CVG, your Cutis Verticis Gyrata, the skin folds on the top of your head, just if they don't like you because you got some chipped front teeth, you know, I mean, 90% of your teeth are fine, but then your front teeth are like, because you know,
it's not the person for you.
Yeah, and you could always fix it later. You could always fix it later. It's just cosmetic, and it's not the worst. People have it way worse. So just own it. So I laugh harder. I started forcing myself to laugh harder and smile bigger because I forgot how to smile, like to fully enjoy myself. Because when we suppress our smile because we're worried how our teeth looks, or we suppress our laughter because we're worried how our laugh sounds and we're afraid of being judged, our body naturally over time gets used to that repression, and we can only laugh at max 75% or smile to 60%, and then it warps our smile, and we don't remember how to do it. The body remembers, right? So I trained myself to get back to just letting go, and now, you know, fucking teeth. And if somebody asks, which never really happens, but if they're like, oh, your teeth, if they do, I'd be like, you know, I'm like, yeah, I fucking did drugs and I got an overbite. So I'm like, shit happens. It is what it is.
People will respect that you're confident.
That's that right there. That's what I fucking learned. That's what you learned too, right? That's what we learned as, you know, coming to our age, is when we can embrace that and admit it, even if we're still going through, but we can admit it.
Yeah.
People think that's brave as shit because they wish they could do that too.
Right.
Yeah.
Because everybody's on their own journey.
Everybody.
And like I tell people all the time, and I was told this, you know, much younger, and I think it holds true today. When you're commenting on somebody's appearance, even if you're commenting out of love and you want to help them make a change, ask yourself before you make that comment, is this something that they can change about themselves before you comment on it? And a lot of times, like, you have, you know, maybe you're talking to your girlfriend or your wife, or you're talking to your mom or your brother or your sister, and you might feel like you have a safe space to where you can comment and maybe help them or encourage them, right? Maybe if you're talking about weight, you should still be very careful how you go about it. But maybe say, hey, I've been going to the gym. You don't come play some basketball with me? Like, and then they might say, oh, yeah, you know, I picked up a couple of pounds during the pandemic. You know, I'd love to come with you. And then you can say, oh, I picked up some weight too, and this is what I've been doing to kind of manage it. If you want any more tips, just let me know. There's a way to go about doing that, right? And you can help them out so that they can, you know, you can lose weight. People, you can't, as an adult, you can't change your height. You know, you shouldn't comment on somebody's height, somebody's skin color. You shouldn't comment. They can't change that they're this complexion, that they're light or they're dark. Oh, you're too dark. They can't change that. So you have to be mindful of when you comment. Don't comment about something that they clearly can't change, right? Because you never know what people are struggling to accept, what parts of themselves they're struggling to accept. So that's something I think about. Is this something that can be, and even if you can change it like your weight, there's still a way about going about it, not just putting it out there. But I think in general, we're doing better as a society, because it used to just say whatever, like about somebody's weight or about the height, or about how much they make. Like, you just talk recklessly. But I think collectively we're a bit more empathetic after this pandemic, because we know that in some shape or form we're all struggling. So it's good to look after each other.
No, I agree, man. Empathy is the key. And I mean, even yesterday, after I did a stand-up show, there's two 21-year-old comics. They're really new. They're really young too. These two guys, and one of them kept making fun of the other guy for being a virgin. He just kept doing it. And I remember I was in that position too. And I remember why guys would do that. So one of the kids, he kept, the non-virgin, he kept saying like, yeah, you know, yeah, dude, you gotta get pussy, man. Like you gotta, like, he looked at me, he's like, yeah, he was so afraid to dance with the girl. Like, he could get it. He could get pussy if you want. He keeps saying pussy, like with a hard P, like pussy. And I recognize whenever guys talk like that, in like an exaggerated performative manner, it's because he's trying to exude this this energy of like masculinity, which is coming from his own place of insecurity. So he kept going off for like 5 minutes on the guy, and the guy's like getting really uncomfortable. And he's like, well, I mean, I could, but I don't know. I just wanted to dance by myself, blah, blah. And I looked at the guy that kept going off on the virgin. And then I was like, look, the fact that you're saying pussy that hard with the P and you keep saying it over and over, it sounds like it's clear to me you don't get it. Because any guy that actually does get laid does not talk the way you talk. And he looked at me, he was like, no, I mean, I do. I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Maybe you're not a virgin, right? But you definitely don't sound like a man, you know? Like, because you don't need to be doing that, because you're doing that to keep him down.
Right.
You're doing that to make yourself feel better for whatever you're lacking. And then he like stopped for a second. He's like, okay, you know what? I don't really get laid like that. Okay, I don't. You're right. Okay, you're right. And then I'm like, yeah, because jealous of him. And he's like, okay, you know what? I do think he's funnier than me. And then the virgin, he was like, no. He's been doing the humble thing, but he also believes it. He's like, no. We're the same. I don't like to think like that. He's like, no. I do think you're funnier than me. That's why. I do. And then, you know, that I think I helped facilitate something, because being in a position like that where you think you're close friends, I mean, I think they are like good friends, but they're doing the whole weird like youthful, like shitting on each other to make up for their own.
Yeah.
Right?
I know what you mean. You get away with that in your formative years, but as adults, we don't accept that type of.
Yeah, but even at 21, I'm like, dude, you guys sound like high schoolers, or he sounds like a high schooler. So I had to call him. I normally stay out of it, but I was like, dog, because I mean they know who I am too. So you know, and they show me respect. So I was like, let me be the big bro and just step in and be like, dog, I know what the fuck's going on here. What the fuck?
Right. Yeah. It's helpful because like, and I remember going through that thing in high school where, you know, you were a man based off of how many women you've been with.
Yep.
Which is
body count.
It's ridiculous, because if you think about it, why does that make you any more of a man than somebody else who's not choosing to engage in those activities? So it's important for us as men to shift the narrative of what makes you a man, because that guy might be choosing to save himself in marriage, and if so, that's a beautiful thing. And if he meets somebody next week and he wants to get with them, and that's his choice, that's fine. And there's also people who have multiple sexual partners, and they all know like they have that type of lifestyle, and that's how they live, but they're not trying to be some like that's just how they live. And some people are celibate. So we need to have spaces where people can do what they want to do, as long as you're respecting yourself and other people. But you know, like with the locker room talk and things like that, you know, is one track minded. Like this is what a man is, and this is how you must behave. So it's helpful to have the OGs come and help the younger guy out there, because what you don't want is that younger guy who he's doing his thing. Maybe he's focused on comedy right now. He doesn't have time for relationships, and he's on the path to being
me.
Right. He's on the path to being maybe in 2 or 3 years he's one of the most successful comedians in LA. So maybe he needs to focus on himself, and he's not really too worried about dating. But you don't want him being derailed and thinking, oh, I need to be more of a man, so now I need to force my way into getting with some woman just to make this guy feel good, or just to appear to be somebody. Like that's not who you are. Now if he meets a lady next week and that's what he wants, that's fine. But even then, you want to make sure that you're doing what you're doing because you want to do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes the voices, you know, that are coming from outside are kind of clouding your judgment, and you have to ask yourself, I just met this girl. Do I really like her, or do I want so-and-so to stop making fun of me? And as guys, you know, we don't have a lot of safe spaces to talk. So I think it is helpful for OG to come and put him to the side and say, hey, you know, like, you know, lay off of him. And as you can see, guy B was jealous of guy A because guy A is funnier. So guy B decided to, you know, use ad hominems and go after his, you know, status as a virgin to try and make him be less than.
His biggest insecurity.
Right.
Which every boy is going to be insecure about.
Yeah. You're completely right. And that's something that we don't talk about enough. You tell guys, oh, just embrace your status as a virgin, and just, you know, but as a guy, you will feel less than when your other friends are engaging in different activities, and you look on TV and this is what a guy is supposed to be. You're going to feel less than. So we have to infiltrate that space and let guys know it's okay to be who you are. If you're a virgin, there's nothing wrong with being a virgin. Now, if you're being a virgin because you're doing to please. Make sure that you're doing it because something that you want to do, and if it's religious based, that's fine. But don't start doing something else because you want to please other people. And I think right now is the great shift in mental health, and guys are gonna be able to speak more openly and more be more candid about these issues. And I'm excited for that because I don't want somebody, like I said, that guy might be on his path to being one of the greatest.
Yep. And
then because somebody said something that hurt him, he's like, all right, now I have to go sleep with a whole bunch of women
and try to go to bars instead of doing open mics and practicing stand-up and getting better at my craft. So it's a thing that needs to be talked about more, but it's hard because majority of guys are they think they have to shit on the other guy who feels like they want to talk about this because they're even though they feel the same way, they are worried that it's going to make them weak, or they feel like they're supposed to react like that and diminish who they are, and that leads to all kinds of weird, like I believe in being masculine. I think being masculine as a man is healthy, or whatever you identify as. If you have masculine energies, it's fine to embrace that. But when the way it gets toxic is when you're driven by the need to feel like you have to get approval, and then that leads to dudes like fighting, like fist fighting, or just getting like super wasted because like, oh, you fucking loser, you can't finish that whole case of beer by yourself, or that fifth of vodka. You lame, you fucking loser. It's like, I have to drive, or no, I mean I have to see my family reunion tomorrow, or
sobriety journey.
Sobriety journey too, right? Like,
you never know what somebody's going through.
You don't know. So it's a thing that I think it's gotta be pushed. Forward.
I think we need to speak more about our insecurities as men.
Yeah.
And I start to smile talking about it because I realize how easy it is to not talk about it. Like, once you get to this stage where we both have platforms, it's easy to act like we never went through issues.
Yep.
But who's that helping? That's not going to help the guys coming up. And as I've alluded to before, like in my content, every 3 out of 4 completed suicides are by men. So it's like 75 to 80% of completed suicides are by men. I want to say women attempt more, but men use more lethal methods. So I have all the suicides. The majority is men, right? And if you look at all of the leading causes of death in the United States, right? Whether it's heart disease or wherever the case may be, take all the leading causes of death in the U.S. and look at what's being done to help out. If you go through all of them, you can see that the outcomes are improving. Like with heart disease, medicine is evolving. There's more treatments. With cancer, we're learning more and more. But when it comes to mental health, the outcomes are getting worse. That's interesting. The outcomes are getting worse. We have all this modern medicine. We have so much money, and you get the latest research, the most advanced doctors working on the most complex diseases. But when it comes to mental health, we're still behind. The outcomes are getting worse. And at the core of this crisis is male mental health. And like I said, every 3 out of 4 complete suicides are by men. So I feel like it's my responsibility to talk about these things to the up and coming generation. Like, let men know that the definition of masculinity is whatever you standing on your own 2 feet to say, this is what I believe in. Like, just like when you're on my podcast and you're talking about your story and you standing up to your uncle and the people that were in your life that you're afraid to speak up to, like, you standing on your own ground saying, hey, I'm a man and I choose to live my life like this. I want to hang out with these people and I want to make these decisions, and not being derailed by whatever other people say masculinity is. You have to be confident in the person that you are. And then they can only do that if we make it okay to be a man who is a virgin, in your 20s, or if you want to be, if you're identified as being a part of the LGBT community, but other people don't like you because, you live a lifestyle and you identify as gay. If that's who you are, be confident in that. And they can only be confident if there's a safe space for that. Male mental health is all, and even as straight men, as heterosexual males, we have a obligation to the LGBT community to help them out. And a lot of times I don't know the proper terms or the right what to say, but I'm like, hey man, I'm here. Listen, I'm here to listen. Educate me on this, and that. Or if it's a guy who's a virgin, educate me on what you go through. How can I advocate for you? How can I stand up for you like you stood up for that guy? Because I know he appreciates that, because everywhere he goes, I'm sure he doesn't like to get into conversations where we start talking about women, because the topic will come up. And he may have even found himself like lying and say, oh, yeah, you know, I got a couple of girls. Lying just to fit in because he doesn't want to have that conversation.
Yep.
Why can't we make it okay for him to say, oh, no, I'm not seeing anybody right now. In fact, I really haven't been with anybody, but I'm just kind of focusing on my thing. Imagine him saying that out with the guys, and other guys like, oh, that's dope. Yeah, Tom, Ricky, whatever. I respect you. That's dope. I respect that. Once you can respect how other men move, that's a beautiful thing. It's important. I think so many men are suffering right now with body dysmorphia, depression, anxiety, social anxiety, mood disorders. So much is going on, and nobody's talking about it. It's important for us to speak up and say, hey, there's guys out there that are struggling. What can we do to help them out? And once we have that safe space, that's huge. I know there's guys right now, grown men, probably married. They'd rather confide in us than their own wives.
Very true. Very true, man.
And I know because I've seen it from the standpoint of a clinician. When they have somebody who gets it, you can't put a price tag on that. That's the best feeling. And like I'm getting goosebumps as I'm speaking about it, because I ask myself, I'm like, why? Like, of course, like I guess maybe it's imposter syndrome, but I look at myself as just Kojo. But people reach out, and whether it's a patient or through DMs, like I have a lot of guys who say, hey man, this happened to me when I was a kid. I didn't tell anybody. I don't know why I'm telling you, but I just want to let you know that your content makes me feel like I'm less alone, and I feel like I can talk to you. And I can't reply, but I'm like, man, this is somebody who's been battling with demons their whole life. You would think that they could talk to their pastor or their wife, but for them to have that safe space to where they can be themselves, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I mean, even me, man, like, because I don't just do comedy. I will talk about like things like this, and then I'll get certain messages, and it is tough to read these things when they're just these young kids who have literally nobody to confide in or feel safe with, and it's like, damn, this sucks. But that's why it's good that you put out that type of content and that type of material, because even though you can't respond because like you really can't due to your there's rules you can't break, but that it's still helping them because they're going to keep consuming the content. Yeah. And I mean, even what we talked about right now, this is very important for younger guys to hear. Not even just guys, but like this is going to help like girls and women to understand what their dude is going through potentially, or like when they're going on a date and like, why is this guy acting kind of nervous, or things like that. Because there's a thing where there's a huge movement right now where I think it's kind of like a pushback to the feminist movement. I mean, I'm not going to get political because I don't give a fuck about that, but I just want to use that as an example, is where guys are talking heavily about alpha males and beta males. And I like, again, masculinity is good. However, if you think you can categorize a person just by alpha and beta, that fucks guys up in the head, because they think, if I talk about my insecurities, now I'm being beta.
Right.
If I be vulnerable, I'm being beta. If I'm to be alpha, I have to be cold, cool, calm, collected, and not be too enthusiastic, not be too happy, because that's what an alpha male is, because that's what women want, and because that's what guys are going to respect other guys. But that is not true. And that, I think, there's parts of these movements that are helping, but there's also a lot that's actually having an adverse effect, which ties into the mental health issues that men are going through, right? Because then they're like, I can't talk to nobody because that makes me a bitch.
Right. You have to be mindful of who you're listening to. And I will say this about being vulnerable with your woman. You don't get to pick your parents, right? You don't get to pick your siblings. And you might not be able to pick your friends. You might become best friends because y'all went to the same school, same church growing up. But you do get to pick your partner. Pick somebody that you can talk to. You should be able to be vulnerable with your partner. I think a lot of guys need to hear that. Yeah, alpha, however you categorize yourself, you should, that's your partner, that's your person. If you choose to have this lifelong partnership with this person, you should be able to confide in them. And if you don't, that's a room for improvement. You should be able to confide in them. And of course, everybody has their own nuances to how they don't, like, your relationship will have its own cadence. That's fine. if you prefer your woman to be a certain way or you act in a certain way, I promise you there is a woman who agrees with how you see things, and she will fall in line to your plan. And if you choose to, let's say the woman is the leader of your household, if that's how you want things to be, there's a woman who will go for that. And then it's just about what you want. You can literally get what you want. I think a lot of guys don't know that. However you see yourself, you can literally get the type of life you want, the type of woman you want. So the pushback to all these different movements, I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. So it's important to listen to other people. And even if you don't agree with somebody, be able to listen. Because if you're like, on one side, you're like, all right, no, this is how I feel about this. You'll never listen to the other side. And I'm never a fan of like extremes on either side. So sometimes sometimes you do have to listen to, like a friend or your lady or somebody younger than you. Like in my culture, the elders know everything. So I used to get frustrated because I'm like, I'm the kid. They won't listen to me. Sometimes the kids are the ones with the answers. So sometimes it's not going to be as clear cut. So if you're following this rule book to where like, all right, I can't do X, Y, and Z because it's not going to make me a man, you're going to be frustrated because then you're not doing it for yourself. You're trying to fall in line with what you think society is demanding of you. So it's important to see who you're following online. Be mindful of that and ask yourself, do you want to live the life that they're living? And what do you want out of life? Do you want to have multiple businesses? Do you want to be the best comedian of all time? Do you want to be the most famous doctor of all time? Do you want to have, a wife and kids? Like, do you want to be a bachelor your whole life? All these things are fine. I'm not going to demonize the man who doesn't want a marriage. Like, if you don't want a marriage and you want relationships with different women, they all know, that's fine. And I think sometimes people push back on that and say, oh, he's a playboy. No, that's how he's chosen to live his life. He's living in his truth and he's upfront. He's not lying about it. That's what he wants. If somebody doesn't want the wife and kids and pick it, let people have what they want. Make sure that they're respecting themselves and other people. But there is no right or wrong answer. And it's what you as a man decide to do for yourself. And the day you stand on your own 2 feet and say, this is how I'm going to conduct myself, and this is what I believe in. Once you have some beliefs that you believe in, then you're well on your way to becoming a man. It might not be what your father thought, right? Which might be difficult because like every dad wants their son to be just like them. I'm sure I'll be that way when I have kids. But if your dad saw things one way, fine. But you're a man now and you see things one way, that's how you do things. All you can do is respect it. But that man still needs space to be loved. He needs space to be able to confide in people. And I saw the Chris Rock clip where he's saying only women and dogs can be loved unconditionally. And to that, I'm not even sure what to say, but I do know that, at least for me as a man, if once I decided to get married, or which I would like to do one day, but once I go through with that, I'm gonna pick somebody who I feel like wants me for me. It's gonna be somebody who I can confide in. I don't know about you, but if you ask me, that's what I'm looking for.
No, I want that too, man. And every time I've talked to guys who are like, seem so alpha and shit, whatever, like, I'm so, the everything, super manly. Everybody wants to be accepted and loved. Everybody. I don't care who it is. Even the playboys. I talked to some of these playboys who've been playboys up to the age of 40, 50. Deep down inside, they I mean, some of them genuinely, like, they just love that shit. But there's a lot I talked to that was them escaping because of their fear of thinking they're not good enough to be loved. But they want that, and they've admitted that to me. It's, dude, nothing feels better than when you're connecting with the person and it's just like, you don't have to fake anything. You can be you at your worst. I mean, we don't just be a fucking asshole. Like, improve yourself. But we have these imperfections that we don't have to shit on. We don't have to look at as like the enemy. There's certain things we can't fully change, but we can work with. And then if the partner we have, or even like your closest friends, they're just like, oh, that's just Kojo. That's Mike. No, they like that about you, or they like accept it. That there's no greater feeling in the world than that. I
love how you say your closest friends, because for guys who do want relationships, the example of the close friends is a perfect example. Like, we'll have close friends who do certain things that we just don't like. Like one of my good friends, like, he replies late to text messages, when it's like time sensitive, I'm like, hey, I just pulled up to your house. Can I come in and pee real quick? Sometimes I don't even go by his house because I know that he'll get to me late. But when he comes through, he's a good friend. So I'm okay with him being late because like, oh, he doesn't stay on his phone or whatever. He's not a social media guy. That's fine. But you'll accept certain things from friends because you're like, okay, that's a good friend, and I like them and I respect them. So they'll be late from time to time, or they'll be, unreliable. But that's a good person. And when it comes down to it, I can count on them. Take that same thing and take it to a relationship. The person won't be perfect. You won't be perfect. But if you have a safe space to whereby you can be imperfect, you can make mistakes, you can get places late after when you should have arrived, and the person's like, all right, we'll work through it. You inspire that person. I think a lot of men want a woman who inspires them to be their best.
Yep.
Now you're going to be your best because you have a safe space to grow. And likewise for the men, once you take a lady, and of course, you watch women to do X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. But once she sees that she can be messy and she doesn't have to be her most perfect self and she doesn't have to be like super on point or pretty or has, she's not working on eggshells. Once she sees that she can be safe with you, she can give you the best version of herself. Right, but you have to work on yourself. You might have to go to therapy. Like I have to go to therapy. I gotta get back. I gotta find me another therapist and continue with therapy to become that best version of myself. Work through that trauma in the past of the things that sometimes you've seen people in relationships go through stuff and you haven't even been through it, but you've seen some shitey stuff happen, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do that, because that's what's gonna happen when you allow yourself to go through. Wherever you go through. But if you've been through some traumatic, get some help. Asking for help is the greatest sign of strength. It's going to help you because you're going to get into a relationship and you're not going to know how to either love them or how to ask how to be loved, or a combination of both. And then you're like, I want to be with this person, but I'm kind of behind. So the work starts now for the person that you'll be in the future and the person that you'll meet, eventually one day.
Yeah. It's not just this person needs to fit me. Like I need a person to be perfect for me. It's like, how can I be better? How can I be the best version of myself so I can attract the one that that would really fit me, the future me, the me that can have all these things that I could only dream of, which is just in our hands and stuff. And I appreciate you being very honest and vulnerable. And this was a good one, man. I like that we got this way. I didn't even think it was gonna go this way, but this was good. Like, because I haven't really talked to another person, another man about CVG who has it. Personally,
I've never done, outside of my brothers. I've never talked to anybody about it. Yeah, I never put it out there online because people don't ask me about that.
Yeah, well, I've never even fucking noticed it on you. And
because my hair.
Yeah, I mean, like the closest I got to conversations was just people who watched my content saying like I have that too, but never a conversation. And I'm glad that we managed to capture it on this podcast, because I know that it's gonna help a lot of guys suffering out there with CVG, and even women. I know a woman that messaged me saying like I have it too.
Oh wow.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't think that, but it's more prominent in men. I think it's because testosterone or some kind of biological factor, and I'm not really sure too much, but
I have to actually look. I got as far as getting the name down, and I prevented myself from looking into it because I was disgusted by all of it.
Yeah.
I really just put it aside, so I'm gonna grow my hair and forget about it. That's how I felt last time I looked into it, to be honest.
No, I get you. That's why I avoided it for a long time, and then I decided to just like educate myself on what it is. Because if you know exactly what it is, then how can it get worse? In your mind, right? Like, how can it get really worse? You know
what you're up against.
You know what you're up against. You know what your things are. And I was like, well, the thing I can do is I can get surgery to just fucking slice a chunk of my scalp off and then suture it together from plastic surgery, and it costs like $10,000 or something. And then like the surgery, and then
I'm good on
and all that stuff. And I'm like, is that a thing that I'm willing to put myself through to like my nerves potentially go to shit, and then like let's say it fucks my facial like expressions up? Like, is that worth it? And it's not even like really that bad. This is before I accepted it fully, and I was like, nah, you're just trying to skip it. Learn to accept it and then make a decision.
Right. I mean, for those who decide to go through with the surgery,
no shade on them though.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, I
I personally, I'm a rock out with what I got.
Fuck it, we got to rock out with the soul out. PR move. But yeah, man, I appreciate you being here. You wanna plug in your socials and anything else, your book, all that.
For sure. I want to say, it was a pleasure to be on. Like, it was great. I was just talking to Mike as a friend, and fortunately having this recorder is gonna help a lot of people. So you can find me online, TikTok at Dr.Kojo Sarfo. On Instagram is just at Dr. Kojo Sarfo. KojoSarfo.com is my primary website, under reconstruction right now. And SarfoPsychiatry.com. We're accepting patients in Arizona, and then we'll open up California and New York a little later on. But that's what I have going on. And my book, You Already Won, is on Amazon. You can Google it in, or you can just go to my Instagram or TikTok and then click the link in there. It'll take you to everywhere. That's probably the most linear thing that people can do to find me.
Hell yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Guys, this has been another episode of the Setbreaker Podcast. And thank you for listening. And I will see you on the next episode. See ya.
Take it.